Welcome everyone back to Star Sisters. I am so excited to bring on my cousin Holly, who she's a mom and she is a PA and she loves to work out and just like does such a great job taking care of her household. I was so inspired by her when I went to visit her a few weeks ago because of the way she just truly balances everything in her life with her career and being a mom and making sure everyone's fed and also making time to spend with her husband, which is also important. And oh, I was just so inspired by that. And so I wanted to bring her on so she can share a little bit more of herself with all of you. So,
Yay.
Holly, we'll start with the first question I ask everyone. What lights you up?
What lights me up? I would probably say being around the people I love. So I'd say I'm definitely more of an introverted personality. So I feel like I am not somebody who gets energized by big social events or concerts. I'm sorry, Aubrey is joining. I was trying to keep her with the
That's
show, but
okay.
Um, this is part of the life. But I feel like when I'm around the people, like my close family, my friends, when I think about like all of our family get-togethers, I feel like that's when I can just like really be myself and not feel judged or have to think twice about like what I'm doing or saying. And I feel like that's the best space to be is when you can just, not have to be worried about those things. And yeah, I feel like that's when I feel like my most productive, my most um, I don't know, present self is, getting to be with those people. Being introverted to me does not mean I want to be alone. Like I think being alone for me is still a struggle, even, telling myself that I'm a more kind of reserved personality.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I can resonate with that, like sometimes feeling introverted, but not necessarily wanting to be alone, but wanting like
Hmm.
the quiet time to just recharge and
Yeah.
um
Yeah, I think
yeah.
being in like a comfortable space, I guess, is where what I maybe identify introversion being introverted with. Like I want to be somewhere where I'm around people or places that I'm comfortable, where I can not, again, not have to like worry about things going on around me or what I'm doing or saying. So I think that's where like I find my comfort, um, is just, yeah, the people and places where you feel at home.
And over the years, that's definitely something I think you have to build and cultivate. And
Hmm.
so how have you like intentionally or maybe unintentionally a little bit too created those spaces for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Brett and I, my husband, talk about that a lot where like I love the feeling of coming home and that just kind of like excited feeling after like a long day, whether it was good or bad, but you're just kind of like that, ooh, like I'm excited to get home into my little space, And I feel like when we moved, we've been at this house almost a year and a half. And when we first moved, it just doesn't have that feeling. And I think some of it is time. Like you kind of just have to like give places time to develop the memories and, develop that like comfy feeling. But I feel like for me too, it's like, I don't know, just simple things like the couch you pick out and the blankets and candles and like things that just kind of create like a cozy space that you just feel like you can just kind of have like a peaceful moment. I feel like for me, like that's important to create that at home.
Yeah, well, and you talk about creating all this like comfort and these peaceful moments, but with kids, I think, I mean, I wouldn't know, but I think sometimes I'm sure it's very chaotic. So how do you still cultivate that for yourself when you have two like energetic little girls who like to play and all the fun things?
Yes. No, that is so true. I feel like, day to day, like just kind of the usual routine at home, I don't really feel like I get those like, settle down moments. I think for us, like with our kids, we're very focused on creating a routine for them and making sure that they sleep in their own beds in their own rooms. And that allows us like the maybe 1 to 2 hours that we get in the evening when the girls are in bed. I feel like that's our moment to like, whether you want to just relax. Sorry, the door just opened. Can you get that, Aubrey? Whether you want to just relax and yeah, light a candle, cozy up on the couch, that type of thing. Or if there's stuff we have to get done. But I feel like for Brett and I, that's what keeps us, I don't know, I guess sane with little kids is like having that routine, having them have their own space. I know a lot of families, they co-sleep and that sort of thing, and that works for them. But for us, it's like we enjoy, maybe that hour of time we get together every evening when they're in bed. And I feel like that for me is what really keeps me, that's my time to relax. So,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, and I'm sure that's also good for your and Brett's relationship to like have time, just the two of you as well.
yes, yeah, no, I agree. It's some nights we just sit there and we'll watch a show and it's like we don't talk at all. It's like we both just want to like sit and watch a show or, I'll read my book and he'll watch something. And then other nights, we have conversations whether they're serious or not, but that's kind of our time to have that opportunity if, there are things that we need to talk about on a more serious note because it's not going to happen when the kids are around. I mean, it's just like right now where you just have these little interruptions and it's like if you really have something you need to discuss as a couple, then, we have to carve out time where it's just us two.
Do you guys do that also like other than the evenings? Like, do you guys like plan weekend time together or?
We haven't been as good about doing a whole lot of that yet since having Adeline. I feel like when Aubrey was, when it was just her, I think we did a good amount of like either, date nights or time on the weekend. We'd have a babysitter, but I don't know. I feel like the second kid has just been a little different in that it's, I think it's harder to ask people to ask to watch two than one, too. Like I know that people are more than capable, but I just, I think it is a little different. Like with each kid you add, it adds more, like you said, chaos. And so I just, yeah, we need to get better at that. Now that Adeline's getting older, I think it's easier to kind of handle the two of them. And Aubrey, can say just about anything she needs to say and kind of knows how things go, so she can help too with
Mhm.
with whoever's watching them. But um, yeah, we definitely need to get better about finding time, evenings, weekends, whatever, because we don't do a whole lot of that right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, and even the, nightly hour or two together, I feel like that all adds up to like really good quality time spent together though too.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think he and I, we enjoy our time at home. We enjoy again having a routine, having structure, and I think that's what keeps us connected too, is, both of us just kind of feeling good about our evenings kind of going in that same routine each night.
Mhm. Something else I wanted to ask you about. So when I was visiting you guys and we were talking, one thing you mentioned was that you were kind of nervous to be a mom before you were a mom.
Hmm.
Uh, the transition into motherhood, like, was that really natural for you, or was that like something you kind of had to like grow into or work on or pray about?
Yeah, I definitely don't feel like it was supernatural. I feel like I never thought of myself as somebody who is like naturally good with kids. No, whether that's true or not, that might just be like an insecurity of mine growing up. I think, I'd see my sister, she's really good with kids and always was and liked babysitting. And I feel like I just wasn't, I didn't feel like I was naturally as good as of that. And yeah, I feel like when I first got pregnant with Aubrey, I remember I had a lot of anxiety just in general in life. But I remember thinking like, being pregnant and having a baby, I was like, I've really got to figure out a way to work on this, anxiety and worry because I knew it's only going to get harder. I mean, as you have kids, there's just a million things you can worry about and be anxious about. Um, and I know there's medicines out there, there's therapy, there's all sorts of things you can do. And but I talked with Brett and thought, well, I should lean into my faith, lean into prayer and see what that can get me first. And I actually got this little devotional book that focuses on worrying and anxiety, and just each night has a little scripture and a little message. And that did worlds for me because for me my anxiety comes out a lot at night when I lay down to go to bed and I just start like thinking about all these things. And so I would read it before I go to bed each night, and that would just kind of focus my mind on that scripture and kind of reset that he's in control. There's, yes, I could sit here and worry, but it's not going to make a difference of what truly happens in life. So I think that was a big help. But I also think, kind of back to your question, like you just kind of have to, I don't know, learn it as you go. Like I think there's moms that probably have a lot of natural instincts and abilities, and I didn't feel that way. I feel like, I know my mom and husband were kind of giving me a hard time. I was like Googling all sorts of things, when you have questions of like, what's this, what's that, there's just so much to learn that with that first baby. And the second time with Adeline, I definitely felt more like comfortable and confident. I feel like I could truly enjoy that newborn phase and maternity leave with her. Like I felt really happy during that phase, where with Aubrey, I feel like I was just like constantly anxious. And um, yeah, I feel like I was glad to get to enjoy it more, because part of me wondered, like, is this just how I'm going to be, with each pregnancy and each baby? But I think it truly showed that like you do learn as you go and you get more comfortable as you go. Um, and maybe giving yourself some grace too, that like you can't expect yourself just to like be natural and be good at all these things right away. Like it's definitely a big learning curve.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, and even with the moms who do feel like they kind of have the instinct and feel or like seem like they might be a little more natural, I'm sure for them it's still
Hmm.
really hard too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
I mean, there's
first
always going to be things that you, especially with your first, just so many things you've never seen, you don't know how to handle it. Um, yeah, there's just, I don't know, there's a million things you can like worry and wonder about when you have children, and especially when they're so little, they can't tell you things, they just cry, and you're like, I don't know what this, I remember them saying like, there's different cries for babies. Like there's a hungry cry and a this cry and a that cry. And I remember I was like 6 or 8 weeks along with Aubrey, and I'm like, I can't tell the difference between her cries. Like people are telling me I should be able to know, and I'm like, it all sounds the same. And I think we've like put too much pressure on ourselves sometimes as moms too, of like all this science behind, a newborn. And it's like, they're not like a textbook. Like you just have to kind of figure it out.
Yeah, no, that I think that goes for so many things too. Like we're human beings. We're not like we sometimes some things can fit into a textbook, but there's a lot of things that just can't.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so uh, you kind of like mentioned how your faith has helped you with anxiety and moving through that. How has leaning into your faith helped you with like motherhood more specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think so the anxiety and the worry is one. That's, probably my top thing as being a mom, that I just have to like keep myself in check on a daily, um, you know, day to day, is trying to keep those things that I know I can't control every little aspect of their life. I'd say the one more recently, and Brett and I have talked about this, that, we have to pray on this, um, is the fits and like all the like challenges of toddlerhood. Like that has been very challenging for both of us. I think both Brett and I are not people that like, we don't yell at each other. Like when we get mad at each other, we're not like people that yell. I don't feel like that's like in our personality, but there's times with, my oldest, that is your reaction to yell. And that's so hard as a parent to like, I don't know, to see yourself get to that place, I guess. And, you're like, this is a little human that I love more than anything. Like, how can I be this mad and yelling at them? And Brett and I have had many conversations on that. And, he's talked with some of his friends, and they said the same thing. Like, you just have to pray on it. Like, pray for patience, and also like some understanding that, to some extent it's okay that you get to that place. Thankfully little kids are very resilient, I guess, or forgiving. To see a child's forgiveness, I think, is a really good example of just forgiveness in general. Like, she might get upset when we get upset, but then we're on to the next thing quickly, and, get a hug and all that, and you move on. But so I would say that's probably the thing in motherhood, that has really required our faith and our prayer to kind of step into, um, I don't know, both for Brett and I, just a more higher priority for us is using that to get through these hard moments. Because otherwise, there's days where there's lots of whining and crying and screaming, and you're just like, it's a lot.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I have Scooby and Luna and they're nothing compared to human little ones that are relying on me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all good things. And, I think the other thing I tell myself a lot with children is everything is temporary. I think with Aubrey, when she was younger, I couldn't see that. I remember getting up to feed her one night, and I think she was maybe like 6 months old. And I literally had the thought as I was walking to her room, I was like, is this going to go on forever? Like, am I never going to get to sleep through the night again? Like, I truly felt like I would never get to sleep through the night again. And I just couldn't see that things were temporary with her being my first. And I think this time around, because you've lived through it, you know, like these are all phases, these are all temporary moments in life. And, you know, just to try to enjoy the good things of it. And when you have those challenges, telling yourself, like, this isn't forever, you know, it's actually pretty quick in hindsight. But that's definitely helped me get through kind of the tough moments too.
Well, and I think that like is applicable even like across different hard situations.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I can relate to that right now. Like I'm in my surgery rotation and studying a lot and really like excited about continuing to record these episodes and while it's busy, it's a good busy and it's also temporary. So
Yeah.
so that's really good advice, like to remember just in general that hard times are temporary and there is a light even when we can't see it and even when we sometimes like don't feel like there's ever going to be an end.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think that's a good point. Like with school or, you know, whatever work, whatever situation you're in, like, yeah, in the grand scheme, like it's a pretty small phase of your life, and it will be worth it to get to the end, when you have those hard, busy days.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Something else you talked about was like you've uh like especially with like the fits and the tantrums and that you guys have been praying for patience. I'm wondering what have you learned about yourself in motherhood and like how do you think you've grown in this
Hmm.
journey?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I guess something more simple is that I guess I enjoy, like, I don't know, the little things like providing meals, not only for the kids, but for Brett too. Like yesterday, you know, Super Bowl Sunday, and we had some leftovers for lunch, but I made like, you know, some little appetizers and some nachos and, you know, made some food for the Super Bowl. And I don't feel like I used to be that person that used to really like enjoy that type of thing. And I don't think it's so much as cooking. Like I don't think I really enjoy cooking, but you enjoy like creating, you know, a yummy dinner that everybody else enjoys, or just kind of like a fun atmosphere. Like I think I'm really starting to enjoy that side of things. And, you know, same with when families in town, like getting to host holidays or host things. I enjoy getting to be the one that kind of like facilitates that, I guess. So that's been kind of neat because I didn't really like see myself as somebody who would enjoy that. Um, what else? Sorry, was there like a back to that question, was there like a other side of it, or more so just things that I've learned about myself and motherhood?
Yeah, no, just things that you've learned about yourself and like ways that you've noticed that you've grown into the person that you are now.
Yeah. I guess the other thing too is I don't know if this is noticeable for people that I am close with as far as like family and friends, but I feel like having kids kind of makes you have to be a little bit more like outgoing or out there, or just comfortable, because when you're out in public with your children, like they just like say things and do things, you know, with strangers that, you know, I'm the type, I'm not really going to be the one to like outwardly start up a conversation with somebody I don't know, or, you know, those type of things. And honestly, it probably starts with pregnancy. Like when you're pregnant, you get a lot of people that will, you know, bring it up and ask you when you're due, and, you know, talk to you about their kids or whatever. And so I think that's something I've gotten better at, is probably just like interacting with people, you know, that I don't know as well, and being in like maybe social or like public situations where you can kind of just like strike up a conversation with someone randomly. And some of that, yeah, is brought on by your children doing or saying something silly.
Yeah, that's really cool too, how like especially at the beginning of this you were saying you're more introverted and you kind of like your comfortable space
Hmm.
and how you've been able to just like embrace that because I think some people would like close themselves off to that and just let themselves be really uncomfortable and not be like, "Oh, well, I guess if this is gonna happen, I'm gonna like embrace it. So that's really cool that you've just
Hmm.
like allowed yourself to grow into that and expand. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe some of it is like letting myself, and maybe some of it is like it's just going to happen whether you like it or not. Like Brett and I talked about that just recently. We're like, you kind of just have to let go of a lot of things as a parent of like, I don't know, whether it's judgments or, the other thing of, having a toddler is they want to wear what they want to wear. And I would like her to wear something that's like a cute outfit that matches and, of course, have her hair done. And those are things that are not wanted at 3 years old. And so sometimes letting go of those things too, like letting go of control and letting them kind of, make their own decisions, I guess, within a safe circle.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Because like control is something that we can like want to grip onto for sure.
Yes, and that's I would say like a whole another world of parenting is control of just like trying to control so many things for them, around them. And I think that's something, you know, that we'll have to just learn as we go. Like some things feels good to control or needed, and other things I think, you probably have to kind of watch it because you don't want to be, as they say, like a helicopter parent or kind of micromanaging, where then your kids don't learn how to make their own decisions or their own judgments.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, because then, you grow up and every decision is like a big decision and it's stressful.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Wow. This is so good. Thank you for sharing all these.
Yeah, of course. This is fun.
Yeah. Something else I'm curious about is so you work almost full time, I think, or you work full time?
I'd say more part-time now, I guess. I'm doing a 7 on, 7 off schedule. If I worked those full 7 days, that would be considered like a full-time, for like a PA, but I don't work the weekends in that 7 on anymore. So I really only work like, I don't know, 12-ish shifts a month.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm like another thing I wanted to touch on is like how you balance working with being a mom because like especially for you and you're so present with your kids and you like take care of your household and everything and you work, which um I just feel like sounds as someone who doesn't have all of that going on sounds like a lot to balance and doing all of that well sounds really difficult but
Hmm.
you seem to do it all really well. So I'm just wondering, what is your secret?
Oh, well, thank you. First of all, I appreciate the positive feedback. I think, something you hear a lot in life, and I think I heard a lot in PA school, is that word balance. And everybody used to say, oh, PAs are the best route because you have a work-life balance. And I feel like I can't tell you how many times I heard that, people, talking about it, saying it. And I don't really feel like I truly felt that way until after having Adeline and moving to this schedule. And I think for me, it was very much a like trial and error, I guess, in a sense, or just kind of changing as I go. Luckily, I work for a physician who has been very supportive and flexible with me. And so from where I started in my schedule and what I did to now is so different. And I think him allowing me to make those changes has helped. And I think for me, the big difference is I used to work Monday through Friday and one weekend a month. And I was still working that schedule after I had Aubrey. And the thing that felt to me was that my work life was bleeding into my personal life, meaning I'd get home, I'd still be getting calls, I'd still be having notes to write, I'd still be, having stuff to do. And I just didn't feel like I had that separation of like work and home. And so that was kind of what prompted me to ask to do the 7 on, 7 off, because I knew those 7 days on, I would still have kind of that, getting calls at night or whatever, probably still when I get home for dinner and maybe getting home late for dinner. But then I'd have 7 days where I'm just at home and I have no work responsibilities. Like I'm just present at home. And so I feel like I truly have now discovered that balance that everybody talked about. I kind of felt like for a while, I'm like, man, everybody says this and I just don't know what that is. Because I felt like I was always stressed about work, even when I was home. So for me, I think having 2 children, it's that I work a lot less days. And I don't know if that's how it'll always be, with them, or if I'll work more when they get older or what that'll look like. But I think it just took, a couple years for me to really find how many days of work and how many days at home make me feel like I am doing a good job at both, and make me feel like, I'm present at home when I'm home. And then when I'm at work, I can really focus on that and enjoy it, and not feel like you're constantly like being pulled from one to the other, or, feeling guilty. Like if I'm home, I'm guilty, I'm not helping at work, or vice versa.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense, and that's, really good to hear too that it took you a while, like, I know it's maybe not good for you, but it like, on the for someone listening, it's good to hear it took you a while to figure that out because I think sometimes we think we have to have everything all figured out from the get-go, and so
Mm-hmm.
to hear that it took you a few years to really find the balance that is really working well for you right now is, like, really encouraging.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That, I think everybody probably, I've told this, we take PA students at work, and I've told many, I said, and I think people probably told me this too, that you're probably not going to start at your dream job. Like to get hired for your very first job out of school, to look for your dream job and find your dream job, that's a great like goal to have, but realistically, it's probably not going to be it. And it might mean that you just slowly make changes at that job, which is, I feel like, what I did. And sometimes it might mean that you have to move and, work somewhere else. But I think sometimes we set ourselves up for a failure, in a sense of like enjoyment of that job, when we're trying to find this like absolutely perfect fit. And some of that being like the outside world telling you, what your career should look like, or what, oh, life as a PA, they always do these rankings that they're like a really high satisfactory ranking. And it's like at the end of the day, it's still work, it's still, whatever schedule you have or whatever, um, I think you still have to find in your life in that moment what works for you, that you can truly go and enjoy it, um, versus it being a stressful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good advice because I think that goes for any job,
Mm-hmm.
like, across the board.
Yeah. Yep. I think there's a lot of maybe looking for this perfect fit right away. And yeah, maybe knowing that you can kind of adjust into that with time, or yeah, maybe find it in another place, after you get some experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially when you have things outside of work, which most of us do, that we're really excited about or that we love doing, and work isn't our
Mm-hmm.
whole life. Like it's yeah, it takes time to find that groove. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well, this was so good.
Yeah.
Before we wrap things up, I just have one more question for you. I also ask this question to everyone to if you were speaking to a person who feels right now like they're kind of just feeling like stuck, or they're just kind of feeling like they're in the dark right now, but they really want to step up and shine their light in the way that God created them to, what advice would you give that person?
Hmm. That's, yeah, that's a really, I feel like a really in-depth question. I mean, I guess I think if you're in that place where you're, feeling a little bit dark, or feeling like you're not exactly who you want to be, I would say, finding ways to figure out why, whether that's people you can talk to, going to church, um, finding people at work that can get you through that. But I think probably the base of that is, figuring out, why are you in this place that you're feeling a little bit dark or down. If I were to give a simple answer, I would say like doing something that, yeah, moves your body. I feel like for me, what always like helps if I'm in kind of a rut or feeling kind of down is doing something active. I feel like whenever I do that, then I like almost instantly feel better afterwards, and feel motivated to, whether it's I have laundry to do around the house, or, something like that. I always feel like a little kick of um, kind of boost of energy, or motivation. So I'd say that'd probably be a simple answer, but I feel like that's a pretty serious question. So I feel like if it's a more where you really feel like you're struggling, feeling down, then I feel like that would be a point of asking for help, looking for people that can kind of pull you out. I don't think finding your light and finding, what you, um, I guess your passions in life don't have to be found on your own. I think, having people help you find them and help through that, I think is maybe even more enjoyable. I think there's so much pressure these days for people to, you hear a lot of people say, well, I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to like work on loving myself and getting to a better place myself. And I think those are all great things, but I think it also takes away the point of what I think as humans we're supposed to have people that we depend on, people that we connect with. And I think sometimes if we're so honed in on ourselves, then we forget that it's okay to let other people help you and pull you up and rely on people for things.
Yeah, that is so, so true. And it's so easy to forget, especially when you're feeling so alone. You feel like you have to pull yourself out, but you
Mhm.
really, you like, that's why God created us to be in community. We get to lean on each other and support each other and be supported by each other. So,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing to feel like you need other people and not a something to like look down on yourself for.
Yeah, that's really well said.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, thank you, Holly, for coming on and sharing all of this beautiful wisdom. I know your stories, your advice, it's gonna resonate so well with this audience. So thank you for coming on.